Welcome to a brand new episode of Potation Rotation and a new series that we're going to do called Fuck, I forgot. It was Rewind and Rewatch. It's where I go back and watch all these like science fiction or horror or comic book or superhero related like pop culture movies that probably didn't do so well back in the day. Haven't seen them since high school or even earlier than that. And rewatch them and see how they hold up now. If they hold up at all, should they enter like a cult status? Are they underappreciated? People like them. Should they like them more? And joining me today is Keith. Say hi, Keith.
What's up?
And we are drinking the brand new Captain Pabst Seabird IPA today. You can look for our review that we did earlier on this. So, today's movie, in keeping with this between this channel and his Main Quest podcast and the whole 35th anniversary of that guy this year, rewound and replayed the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now this movie came out in the summer of 1993.
Correct.
And we actually saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
We were actually on vacation at the Mall of America. And we were walking through the mall, we walked by the theater, and it's like, Mom, Dad, can we go see this movie?
Well, you said that. I had no idea there was even a Mario Brothers movie.
Oh. Well, you were like 7?
Yes. And I feel like this was one of the first movies where I was like, I don't know. But we'll get into that a little bit later, I imagine.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, you can always bring it up. I don't know. But anyway, so at the time, when I saw it, it's like, it was clearly for my, was I 16 when it came out then? 93? Yeah, about 6. No, I was going to be 16 that summer. So I was 15 when it came out, when we saw it. Okay, that's settled. 15, 16, at the time I'm like, okay, you know what? It's clearly really nothing like Mario Brothers. It had some nods to it. I kind of thought that the whole, their last names are also Mario was kind of ridiculous at the time. I think
a lot of boobs for a Mario Brothers movie.
Yes, I was just going to get there. That Big Bertha kind of...
Which, as for like a 7-year-old, I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, I'll take it, I guess, but I don't remember a lot of tits in Mario Brothers franchise at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, well, as it turns out, you know that in the Boom Boom Bar, they actually hired real strippers.
Real strippers, yeah.
Yeah. So we're getting into everything that we're going to say later. We don't want to get into all that kind of stuff now.
But yeah, I mean, I remember seeing it, when it came out, and I wasn't aware that like a movie could be bad, and so I watched it and I was like, well, this is obviously like they dress up like the Mario Brothers eventually. They had all the names and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, like I guess this works out, but at the same time, I was like, this also isn't anything like the games,
right?
So I was aware of that much. I remember asking you, why doesn't Dennis Hopper look anything like King Koopa?
Mm-hmm.
Why? That's one of the main things I remember. I remember asking you that, and you were like, well, he kind of has the spike. I remember you telling me, oh, he kind of has the spikes on his head, which is like, in hindsight, poor Dennis Hopper walked around this movie with fucking cornrows. Like, it's just...
Yeah.
And there were a couple things where you're like I felt like you were trying to come to terms with like, oh, this might be like a really bad movie or something, because you were trying to like, well, this is this and this is that, and rewatching it, I remembered those things that you were telling me, and I'm just like, wow, I can see that, but they're really stretching that,
Yeah, so I remember coming out of that movie liking the movie. Like, for what it was to a 15-year-old, for me, even though it wasn't like the video game, and mind you, this was the first video game movie adaptation ever made. So I thought I kind of gave it a pass in that I didn't expect it to be. If I wanted to see something like the video game, I'd play the video game. So for what it was, when I walked out of there at 15, I enjoyed the movie, and I tried to make excuses for why it was how it was. So that's where all that came from.
Sure.
However, when it came out on VHS a year later, I picked it up. I don't know if I bought it or if I rented it, but I know that I had a tape, and I rewatched it. And now at like 16, I must have been so much wiser because I thought it was an awful movie. I just, something about rewatching it, I was like, why did I enjoy this so much? Like, I think I was taking a little bit better of a look at the acting, at the script. I started noticing plot holes. And that was the first time I also noticed, too, that in the Devo chamber, there's no slime on the floor. Then all of a sudden there's slime on the floor, and there's no explanation for the slime on the floor unless you happen to read why there's slime on the floor online.
I mean, I wrote down, there's that chase scene and that car chase scene where they're in the police car, and Mario's like, hold on, and, he slams on the brakes, and then 2 minutes later, John Leguizamo is like, slow down, and Dennis Hopper, what's his name? What's his name?
Who are you talking
Mario.
about? Bob Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins is like, there's no brakes on here. It's like, but you just literally slammed on the brakes 30 seconds earlier.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely a lot of weird, and then, the whole, why is, the king magically turned back into the king? Like, they don't explain how him turning back into normal is tied to Koopa dying. Like,
right.
There's just a lot of stuff but that has to do with them rewriting the script like every other day.
Yeah. So let's get there. So we decided to rewatch the film. I haven't seen it since like I said, like 94, 95.
Yeah, it's
been like 25 years.
Yeah, it's been about 15 years for me.
I just never really thought much about the film. Actually, until recently, there's been the last good 4 years. There's been a push because it's kind of
a cult classic now.
It is. It's got a cult following, and there's now this push. I think out of the UK. It's a little bit bigger there for whatever reason. They've got like their Blu-ray special feature edition, multi-disc release of that, but now they're trying to do a restoration in 4K with trying to get deleted scenes into the film and finished and all that stuff. Like
I want to see a documentary. I want to see a whole documentary because just the way Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo talk about how absolutely plastered they were on set.
Oh yeah, they hated it so much they had to drink.
Well, the whole cast tried to leave the movie, and I don't know who it was, but they said, if you guys leave, there's going to be a lawsuit.
Right.
And so they were forced to stay part of the movie,
Right.
Which is that's crazy. That's so crazy. And considering, people like Dennis Hopper and Bob Hoskins, who are these legendary actors, the fact that they were scared of a lawsuit's crazy to think of.
There's even another legendary actor in there that you probably never realized he was in the film until you put two and two together. Maybe saw that
Lance Hendrickson.
Hendrickson.
Yeah. They were like, "Hey, this movie's coming out in 2 days. Can you come in?"
He plays. He plays King Reznor, who's the fungus, and that's the other thing too. They don't actually say his name is Reznor, which is
I just found that out.
Yeah, in Super Mario Brothers, in Super Mario World, Reznor is the rhinoceros. Are they rhinoceros or triceratops?
A little bit of both.
That are spinning around on that wheel, and you gotta. There's like 4 or 5 of them, and Mario's got to defeat all of them. So he plays King Resner. So you really only see him at the end, coughing up fungus, and like thanking the Mario Brothers. He's like in there for 10 seconds.
He has one line.
Yeah.
He's like, "Where are those brothers?"
Yeah.
Or something like that. I
Yeah.
gotta thank them. Yeah, this is really just like, we've got to put him in here. Like, we've mentioned him how many times in this movie. He has almost no connection to the movie anyway.
Right.
He's like, can you come shoot that? You get like 10 minutes because we got to get this. This is coming out in like 2 days.
Okay, so we'll jump into Easter eggs and all that kind of stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and give you the official synopsis if you've never seen the film, or if you have, bear with us. So it is an American science fiction live-action movie adaptation, very loosely, based on the Super Mario Bros. Series of video games released by Lightmotive. It was released May 28th, 1993, by the now-defunct Hollywood Pictures, who actually, just as the movie was about to be made, Hollywood Pictures was picked up by Walt Disney. So technically, it's a Walt Disney movie. And Walt Disney is one of the reasons why the film, the script was, at that point then, tossed. One of the many revisions was tossed, and a rewrite had to happen. While the film draws inspiration from the games, it spins these elements into a more realistic and darker fashion. The movie was originally written as a fantasy-style film, but was gradually changed over numerous rewrites to the point where it became a science fiction action film. Now, keep in mind, they're basically saying it was this film. It was supposed to be a fantasy-style film. It was even supposed to be something else before that.
In some aspects, it's not a darker tone at all. It's like the setting is darker, but the dialogue, it's weird. So the setting is super dark, but it's weird because it's like a dino city or something that they call it.
Right.
Like this, never mind the Mushroom Kingdom. I guess we're just not even doing that.
They do mention Mushroom Kingdom though.
It doesn't mean anything.
I think Koopa talks about how the king
line.
is suffocating his Mushroom Kingdom.
Also, President Koopa, by the way, not King Koopa. President Koopa.
Well, they do use. Technically, that is his given name. What's the word I'm looking for?
What kind of government?
Title. That was his given title.
What kind of government is going on?
But
there's an election that's going on.
Two other times they do use. I
want to know who he's running against.
Nobody. I think.
Well, then what's the election for? I'm getting some serious. Like, no disrespect to Dennis Hopper, but I'm getting some Trump vibes from him in this movie. There's even a.
Well, I think that was one of the. I think that was one of the Easter eggs is that they designed President Koopa at the time to be a Donald Trump character.
There's even like a poster at the end of the movie that says something about like, fuck the environment, we'll get another one, and it's of Koopa holding like a chainsaw or something like that.
Mm-hmm. They do reference him twice in the movie though, once as king and once as the Great Koopa. Somebody does throw each of those words out as well, but it's supposed to be President Koopa.
Back to what I was talking about as far as like the darker tone, but the city is like obviously very dark. It's like Blade Runner. They had the same set designer.
They did, yes.
But the things that the characters are doing in the movie could be considered like more adult if it wasn't for the goofy ass script. Like the script is completely childish.
Right.
So you got like, I don't know if you want to get into it, but I mean you get Yoshi getting fucking ganked like towards the end of the movie, but then you've got like Mario and Luigi dancing with Goombas also like 2 seconds later. Like it's just everything's so off.
It's a very inconsistent film. Barry Morrow, he was the writer and director of Rain Man. He actually wrote the original script for the Super Mario Brothers movie, and when the studios read the script, they thought it was very good, but they also thought it was very Rain Man.
Yeah. Wasn't Luigi supposed to be like disabled or something like that?
Yeah, and they were like on a road trip, like
Which-
in Rain Man.
They did in The Wizard like 3 years earlier.
That too. So and they thought it was too dramatic. Like it was a complete departure from, like a fantasy video game movie that they wanted. It was Mario and Luigi in Rain Man 2. Is essentially what it sounded like Barry Morrow wanted. So they shelved it. So eventually, the film was written by Peter Bennett, Terry Runt, and Ed Solomon, and directed by.
You said Ed Sullivan. I'm like, wait, what?
We got a special movie for you today. Ed Solomon, and it was directed by Annabelle Jankel and Rocky Morton.
Rocky Morton. He sounds like an old boxer.
You can get everything from the film and everything about them just by googling their two names. Produced on an estimated budget of $48 million for its high-profile cast, and it had the cast that was eventually in it was really good, but even the people that they wanted in it to begin with was
Danny
even
DeVito.
bigger. They wanted Danny DeVito to direct it too.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Tom Hanks. But Tom Hanks had Joel versus the Volcano and The Burbs that came out, which both flopped, so they're like, yeah, we don't want Tom Hanks anymore. Well, who knows how that would have all went down, but...
Could you imagine Danny DeVito's Mario? Just picture him still like kind of on par with like the Penguin for Batman Returns. You just got
Danny
Mario
DeVito
walking
is-
around like
that movie would have been...
fucking like black ooze coming out.
Nothing against Bob Hoskins. I've always liked Bob Hoskins, but Danny DeVito would have made that movie so much better no matter how shitty it was.
I mean, Danny DeVito had been already known to do comedy, like Throw Mama from the Train. And Bob Hoskins was more of like, he was in a lot of mob movies. I mean, even Who Framed Roger Rabbit, he was still, he wasn't, he was the straight man, you know, in a comedy.
Right. And that's why after Super Mario Brothers, he never did any comedy-driven film again. So, and then they also asked Arnold Schwarzenegger to be in it. They asked Sylvester Stallone to be in it. They asked, there was even, as the script is now, as you see the movie, there was even supposed to be an Easter egg, a cameo by Bruce Willis, that while filming, they scrapped it. Bruce Willis was supposed to be crawling through one of the pipes in an homage to Die Hard. And saying yippee-ki-yay with a bomb in his hand or something. It didn't happen. So, probably thank God.
So instead we have a British guy and a Latino playing Italian New Yorkers.
That's correct. And as John Leguizamo would go on in interviews to say, he'd be like, we had a lot of Italians playing mobster, Spanish mobsters, so now it's my turn. That was his reason for it. So, anyway, so in the special effects and the cast, it was $48 million. It made like less than half that. It made like 19 or 20 million or something like that. It was rated PG for sci-fi action, mild language, and sensuality. The movie was a financial failure, has received generally negative reviews from critics, but has since gained a cult status in spite of, or even because of, its negative reception. So that's a little bit of the background on it. I could give you like the entire story, but that would be, why bother? You should go watch it.
Should they?
Yes!
Should they?
We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. So there was, there was the original like Rain Man type script, and then there was something that was even closer to the video game property. In fact, they weren't going to even use the name Daisy in that one. They were going to make up a whole new princess character.
Why Daisy? Why? Princess Toadstool's right
either
there.
Toadstool or Peach is not grounded in reality.
None of it's grounded in reality. None of this movie's grounded in reality at all.
They could have done something where maybe her name was Peach, and then maybe she said something like, well, that's just what people call me, that's my nickname, my real name is Daisy, and then be like, oh, shit. Like, mind-blowing, maybe. Kind of like what they did with Robin in Dark Knight Rises or something.
But at least in Dark Knight Rises, it was a little bit earned. Whereas here, it's like, you got all the characters right there.
Right.
Like, you know, what was Daisy was Donkey Kong, wasn't it? She was in Donkey Kong? That was who you're... Or no, that was Pauline.
Yeah,
Who
that was Pauline. Daisy is from Super Mario Land.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Sarasa Land or whatever kingdom that she's... The Sarasa Land
Just
kingdom.
go with Peach or Toadstool. You know?
Yeah, well... they apparently weren't even going to go with Peach or Toadstool for the version that was close to the video game.
I mean, at the beginning of the movie, you see, I don't know what he was, Lieutenant Koopa. He's adorned with all his badges. He's wearing his suit and shit. So
Right.
maybe he served in Nam, and you know his Peach was actually in Nam.
And we were supposed to see, and shit like this might come out if they ever do the restoration 4K version. It might come out, but there was a scene where in the beginning, Koopa actually does chase after Daisy's mother through New York, and he kind of gazes upon New York, and that's his inspiration for what the underworld ends up looking like, which is basically a replica of New York City, but just more disheveled.
Instead, he shows up for 2 seconds. It's just like, "Where's the rock?"
Yeah.
And then he just gets crushed or something.
He's like
There's like an earthquake for no reason.
Yeah,
Like-
I don't know, but and you would think that it would start out like as a completely different film, because actually in the beginning of the film it starts out with animated dinosaurs and the history.
Yeah,
of
I
the
did not
meteorite
remember this movie starting out with an animated
sequence.
short sequence narrated by Homer Simpson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the other thing. Dan Castellaneta, that's the son of that. I'm never gonna ever. I've never said his last name correctly. I'll never get it right.
Castellaneta?
Dan
Castellaneta? As somebody who
Homer
has to
Simpson.
pronounce Japanese names all the time, Castellaneta's not.
I'm better
That's a
at-
walk in the park.
I'm better at Japanese names. But yeah, he narrates it, and so you think it's going to go in one direction, and then it doesn't. But the reason why it's like that is because the original film, when it was test screened, didn't have that. And it kind of just started with Daisy's mother dropping her off at the Catholic Christian orphanage thing.
Which, by the way, if those traditional nuns, if you want to
Oh, yeah.
ground this,
Yeah.
if those traditional nuns just found an egg and a baby hatch from it,
Yeah.
they would
They'd
burn that
probably
baby
burn it.
alive.
Yeah, they probably...
There's no way.
Probably get one of their priests and do an exorcism and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, but anyway, and it confused audiences because they're like, well, why is this happening, and why is there like an alternate universe under the ground? Even though you got characters kind of mentioning it and kind of it's supposed to piece together, it left audiences during the screenings like confused. So they added the animated opening before it was officially released. So that's why it's...
And they got Lance Hendrickson in there.
Yeah. So it kind of jumps around. It's in 65 million years ago, and then it's 20 years earlier, and then it's present day, and
Brooklyn had dinosaurs?
Brooklyn had dinosaurs. They was eating pizzas and rats. I can't do a Brooklyn, New York thing.
I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna keep trying though.
So it got to the point where, now we're talking about the film. Forget about the cartoon opening or whatever. So they're filming, and it seems like there's like really good chemistry, especially between Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo. It's probably because they were drinking.
Fucking wasted.
And that's probably also one of the reasons why when John Leguizamo had to drive the plumbing truck, he drove it like an asshole, and Bob Hoskins crushed his finger in the door, turning a corner.
Did you see? Because apparently, obviously they had to continue filming, and Bob Hoskins was wearing a cast that was painted pink.
Right.
I was trying to keep a lookout for this cast. Did you see it at all? I did not catch it.
No.
Like, they edited it pretty well to keep that cast out.
Well, and you know what?
I'll give them that much credit.
There was, yeah, I was looking for it too, and then there's the point where they're all dressed to the nines in the Boom Boom Club,
Right.
and for whatever reason Mario's
Zoot
wearing
suits.
yellow gloves and nobody else is wearing gloves.
That could be it too.
So maybe that day he didn't want to wear a cast, or maybe they're like, oh, here, put some gloves on. But as far as, I mean, they did a really good job making sure that you couldn't see that he was wearing a cast. I mean, I suppose. Now, here's the thing. And so we'll talk about special effects then. This movie pioneered, at the time, the special effects that you've seen from 1993 onward.
Really?
Yes. It was the first.
man.
It was the first time that a film would merge practical and digital effects.
Because there was some, I have right here on my notes. I don't know at what point this was, but I just wrote these special effects look like dog shit. Keep in mind, I'm watching it in like 1080p or whatever, so
Well,
it definitely doesn't help. I think it might have been. I think this was when they were crossing over to the other dimension or whatever, when they like fall through the wall.
mhm.
And you see Mario kind of like falling in like this tie-dye kaleidoscope thing. It looks fucking awful. It looks really bad. There was a part where like when the dimensions start to merge, and Dennis Hopper and Bob Hoskins kind of turn into like a sand or something like that. That looked okay.
Oh yeah, which was modeled based off of the Star Trek transporter, by the way. That's what they modeled that effect off of.
Really?
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't look anything like
Hey, look
that.
what I found.
What's up?
There's a documentary called "The Making of Super Mario Brothers," so you can look for that now that you want to watch
yeah,
it.
that is. I'm absolutely going to watch that.
I'm trying to find. I found a whole bunch of other stuff here, trying to find the special effects thing. But they also had Michael Keaton attached to it, Dustin Hoffman
But to-
himself.
To bring up, another video game movie, Mortal Kombat, which was at the height of special effects as well at the time. I remember that being talked about a lot when it came out. Watching that, that's honestly probably. It's not a great movie. It's got some problems, but it's probably one of my favorite video game adaptations. And there are some great special effects still that hold up, but there are also some that just are awful, like Reptile. Just kind of looks like a Windows 95 screensaver, and
Yeah.
the Scorpion's like spear, which is not really a spear; it's like a dragon or something.
Well, now
I don't
hold
fucking
on. Now hold on.
know. This
You're-
isn't about Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
We should just
Yeah,
keep
because
going.
Mortal Kombat might be something that either of us do on our shows in the future, because that's another one that I actually haven't seen. I've seen it more recently than Mario Brothers, like a lot more
That
recently.
movie's
but
great. It's just Enter the Dragon. That's all it is.
I can tell you, when it first came out, I worked at the movie theater when it came out,
Yeah,
so I could see
I remember
movies for free.
picture-
I saw it like 6 times.
Yeah, you dressed up like Sub-Zero.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway,
Cosplay.
man. So, okay. I'm trying to find the name of the special effects thing, but I will say, so here's
Industrial Lights Magic.
well, no. But Skywalker Studio did the sound for the film. So there's that.
Okay.
But the practical effects that were in the film, not the digital, but the practical effects, at the time that this was being filmed, so was Jurassic Park.
Yep.
And Jurassic Park, the guys over at Jurassic Park heard about Super Mario Brothers, so they went and visited the set, and they were so impressed by what they were doing on the Mario Brothers movie with practical effects. They're like, we need to take some of these ideas back to Jurassic Park
I mean, look
and
at
implement them
Yoshi.
here. Yeah.
Yoshi doesn't look anything like Yoshi. It
Right.
just looks like something like you would see out of Jurassic Park.
And I'm just and here.
But the puppet, to be fair, looks fucking great.
So Patrick Tatopoulos, who worked, he was a creature designer and supervisor for Jurassic Park, described Yoshi as an abstract fantasy T-Rex and designed the baby dinosaur with large eyes to evoke a softer and less menacing quality. Lead SFX sculptor Mark Mader compared Yoshi to a cross between a T-Rex and an iguana. 4 versions of the Yoshi puppet were built: a stand-in, a wireless model, a half puppet for the tongue, and a fully functional model. The fully functional puppet utilized 70 cables and 9 operators, costing $500,000, or equivalent to almost $1 million today. So they visited the set, and they were so impressed with the Yoshi puppet that they actually considered paying off some of the engineers working with the Mario Brothers movie and saying, come work for us, but instead they didn't, and they kind of probably just took some of the ideas back with them and used them in Jurassic Park. The visual effects, here it is. They innovated and for the first time introduced many techniques considered pivotal in the transition from practical to digital visual effects. It is the first film ever to have used Autodesk Flame, which is now industry standard. It is also the first film scanned with a digital intermediate, allowing for the compositing of more than 700 visual effects shots. Oh, and the disintegration effect for the interdimensional merge was inspired by the transporter from Star Trek. So, it broke ground.
Yeah.
For science fiction, mostly science fiction. I mean,
it makes no sense why Yoshi's in the movie, other than people were dinosaur crazy. And Jurassic Park hadn't even come out yet.
Right.
I mean, I was too young to remember. Obviously, I remember everything after Jurassic Park, in which, I, along with probably a whole other slew of millennials, were obsessed with dinosaurs when we were younger. But I feel like there's a slow build-up to even before Jurassic Park was released. And so I feel like a lot of this movie might have been just cashing in on that. Because obviously, the whole thing of, everybody in Koopa Town, or whatever the fuck. I don't even care.
I think there was a slow build-up of dinosaurs.
They're evolved from dinosaurs. And then you got Yoshi, too, because Super Mario World, it wasn't out yet, but it was coming out. So people knew that there was a dinosaur in the game. And so I feel like it was kind of cashing in on.
Super Mario World was already out.
Was it?
Yeah. Super Mario came out in like 91.
Here. Wasn't it like 91?
All I know is part of the revisions and some of the stuff that they wanted in the film were based squarely off of Super Mario World.
I'm probably wrong. You're probably right.
But anyway, so basically from day one, and now that Disney was involved, they kind of were like, no, get away from the fun, lighthearted, video game related type of thing and kind of make it its own grounded reality. Kind of go back to like maybe a little bit of the Rain Man type of shit where it's kind of like trying to take itself seriously, but like make it dark too. Like make it like a Blade Runner now.
Like have a real serious car chase scene, but have some Danny Elfman music playing in the background.
Well, there you go, Danny Elfman. So it's like, and that's what the actors signed on for. Actually, it like was really appealing. And then as they started filming,
they asked Bob Hoskins to get a giant boot. They're like, wear this Karibo shoe, and he's like, I'm not wearing that Karibo shoe.
Is that how he talks?
Yeah, that's how he talks. Yeah. They're like, all right, what about...
I thought he was British.
Bob, put this raccoon suit on. I'm not wearing no fucking raccoon suit.
There was a script that called for Luigi to turn into
they didn't even give Luigi a fucking mustache.
John Leguizamo, can he even grow a mustache?
Who cares? But they broke ground in special effects. Why can't they give him a mustache?
Well, they can't take away Henry Cavill's mustache successfully. You expect him to give somebody a mustache successfully back in 1993?
They're already probably over budget, so they're just like, we can't afford the mustache.
They were over budget.
We can't afford.
There was a whole different ending that they couldn't do because they were over budget.
You see that fucking Yoshi dinosaur? We can't do a mustache. Do you know how many people will need to make sure his mustache works? How many cables and electronics will need to make sure the mustache works?
I think another reason why, not only were they over budget because the filming went on twice as long as it was supposed to, but the Goombas were supposed to be just like sporadic background characters walking in with the citizens.
But instead they're like these...
But the special effects were so good for them at the time that they're like, we need these to be main characters. So they rewrote the script as they went along.
Why do the Goombas look like they're Soviet soldiers going out into the winter?
Well, that's actually It's actually a good,
Like, they look
yeah.
like
They
hammer
do.
and sickle Soviet soldiers. Like, it looks so.
So you got
stupid.
the ones with the heads that kind of go like this, so it's almost mushroom-like. But not quite.
That's the other thing that I remember because I was like,
And then
why
you got
do these
the ones-
Goombas look different? And you're like, those are
Yeah, then you got the Koopa
Troopas.
Troopa looking ones
I was
too.
like, all right,
So, but they're still
I
called
guess.
Goombas, even though they've got like these like almost
Little
like
penis
turtle beak things coming out.
we're stretching it. We're
And
stretching
anyway,
things.
Yeah. We're stretching things like the fungus. Trust it. Just trust the fungus. And that's the other thing. Trust the fungus was supposed to be the new The Force is With You.
This movie,
by the way.
I got a note here. All the fungus, which just kind of looks like boogers. I think this movie was a secret Booger Man movie. They just didn't go with it.
So it was a Booger Man movie that they took the shell and built a Super Mario
Yes.
Brothers. It kind of like the
Because Lance
Super Mario
Hendrickson
Brothers 2 game.
just looks like a booger nut sack for this entire movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So everybody agreed to do one movie. They started shooting. Then the rewrites happened. The directors were complete asshats, but they kind of had to be because the studio was forcing them to do these rewrites. And the whole thing was a mess, and people didn't want to do it anymore. So they started drinking and bad mouthing. I mean, Bob Hoskins, up until he went to his grave, he was in every interview. There was 3 questions that were asked, like, "What's the worst movie you ever done?" Super Mario Brothers. If you could change anything that you've ever done in your life, what would you change? I wouldn't do Super Mario Brothers. What's the biggest regret you have in your life? And that didn't even have anything to do with movies. It was just a regret in life. Super Mario Brothers. Like, he literally hated that fucking movie. When him and John Leguizamo and Samantha Mathis had to go to Japan to do a press junket for like 2 weeks out there, they just continued to drink. Like, the movie was even done. It was done shooting, but they didn't even want to do that. Like, they hated the movie so bad. Samantha Mathis is she's a little bit more okay with it, and John Leguizamo kind of laughs it off, but Bob Hoskins was just like, fuck Superman. Like, don't even put that on my resume type of shit. Like,
I'm not too familiar with Samantha. What did she do before Super Mario Brothers?
The thing called Love.
Okay.
That I think came out like the year before or something, but it says that she was in that, and that I remember her being in. She was in Broken Arrow after. Broken Arrow with Christian Slater and John Travolta. She was also in Pump Up the Volume. That's where I remember her from.
I've
So
heard
those are
of
the
that
two.
Okay.
And then she was in one of the best comic book movies ever made, The Punisher, with Thomas Jane. 2004 Punisher. That's the one thing I remember.
Oh,
after.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Um,
I would love to do that movie, but I love that movie. I watch that movie at least once a year, so that's never going to be talked about. But anyway, we're getting off topic here. So, yeah, it got...
you were talking about how they went overseas to promote, obviously.
Right.
And I feel like this is the movie that kind of made Nintendo so closed off as a company from everything else because they literally gave the directors and the company, like, what company gives you their IP and they're just like, go ahead, do whatever you want with it.
Well,
like,
they were so confident that anything with Mario on it was going to make money that they didn't care.
Miyamoto's probably just like, oh.
Well, Miyamoto has said, he said that the problem was, it's kind of like an either-or situation. He goes, you either do a movie and you kind of have the names, you kind of have a plot, but don't make it like the video game, which is what the very first script from the Rain Man guy did. And then you've got or make it exactly like the video game and make it fucking good, that way. And Miyamoto said basically what they did was they tried to make a movie that wasn't like the video game, but then still tried to make it like the video game. And that's where they failed.
Yeah.
Where it's like, let's just throw some things in here so that it's based off a video game, and they just tried too hard with that approach. That's what Miyamoto
And even
had a
with
problem
that, it still doesn't. Again, if you had no idea what Super Mario Brothers was, you would have no idea that this movie was based off of a video game at all. Because
Right.
even the callbacks to the game, it's most of that stuff's only in name, not
Right.
in practice. You don't see a single person jumping on somebody's head. You don't see anybody eating a mushroom or eating a fire flower and growing bigger, you don't get any.
The
there's
only
nothing.
the only
There's
power
nothing.
the only power the mushroom provides in the film is acting as a shield. When they hold up the
Right.
mushroom and,
Right,
and
right.
it gets zapped and it expands.
And I mean, I guess
You got the jumping with the thwomp boots, but
but
that's it.
they're not stomping on anybody's head.
No, they're just jumping from one part of the city to the other.
You know, there's nothing there. There's not. Technically, there's nothing
Yeah.
from the game.
So
there.
a thwomp is not a thwomp; it's a boot, and the boot is powered by a bullet bill, which is a little cartridge that makes the thwomp boots actually propel.
Thwomp storage, by the way. At the beginning of the movie, is
Oh, yeah.
Thwomp storage. So
Yeah.
what is that like?
You do have the Kupahari
You just
Desert.
you just get your stuff into a thing, and a thwomp is just like, and then it like smashes it, and you're like, all right, now I can just store this away, and and then I don't know, I don't know. The mushrooms don't make anybody grow. I was gonna say put a mushroom on there, and it comes back.
I think
up.
I think you need to call Illumination and be like, "Do you need somebody to do a thwomp voice? Because I've got it down pat for the next for the animated movie coming out next year or whenever that's coming out." Which Nintendo has a firm grasp on, and they've been working on it for years, and it's still going to take another year or two before it comes out. So anyway, and then you had the Kupahari Desert, which is basically the entire rest of the planet
It's the entire
outside
planet.
of the
it's
city.
literally New York City and then nothing else.
Right.
So like that's what I mean. Like they call it like Koopa City or something, but then you said they mentioned Mushroom. I didn't hear Mushroom Kingdom at all. in the
Yeah,
fucking movie.
yeah. President Koopa, they're talking about the bombs and how the fungus is trying to give the bombs, and President Koopa's there, and he turns to the fungus that's kind of and he goes, I know you've got like a hold or something. You're trying to strangle this mushroom kingdom or
It's
something.
just there's no.
Yeah.
You had so much stuff to. I mean, they didn't have really a story to work with, but there's so much material there already. Like they didn't do anything.
And Big Bertha was a bouncer at the Boom Boom Bar. So she was like this red.
I felt so
Leather
bad with
dressed
her after
Spike.
that dance, but she seemed okay with it.
You had the
She
characters.
seemed really heartbroken.
You had characters Spike and Iggy, which that's another
They were
plot
cousins.
issue. That's another plot
Why are they
issue
cousins?
too. So they're cousins, and they're related to Koopa. However, they do an about. Oh, okay. Now hold on. I got two problems with Spike and Iggy. By the way, Fisher Stevens, who plays Iggy, the more like he was in like Short Circuit. Fisher Stevens.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
He tried to
He's
be an
also
Indian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was
Yeah.
the Indian guy in Short
Yeah,
Circuit.
the Indian guy. Yeah.
So I love Fisher Stevens. I think he's a great actor too. I'm surprised I don't think I read anything where he says anything about this movie. Maybe nobody cared to ever ask him. But anyway, so two problems. So Koopa is in the Devo chamber, and he wants to make them both smarter because they keep failing him, right? So he puts them in there. And by the way, a lot of what Spike and Iggy say in the film are ad-libbed. They're not scripted. They were the only two characters, and John Leguizamo, that was another
There wasn't
problem
a
he had.
script anyway.
John Leguizamo is somebody that likes to ad-lib in his films. So he was like right from the beginning, because you got Spike and Iggy and Mario and Luigi right at the beginning of the film. All four characters are in the beginning of the film in New York City. So John Leguizamo was like, oh man, they can ad-lib, I want to ad-lib too. And they were like, no, you will not ad-lib, you are going to read directly from the script. And that's one thing that pissed him off, because the other two actors could do it. The other two actors had a good argument though. They actually said out loud, we hate what's on the paper. They said, we will not say this,
Well, you gotta think the script is changing so fucking much. It doesn't matter anyway.
So they're at all right. So Koopa puts them in the chamber and tries to evolve them to make them smarter.
Right.
And they come out and they're saying all these articulate, intelligent things, all these big words, and really like they're making them up off the top of their head, right? Because they're ad-libbing. so that it kind of doesn't make sense that they're almost like they're trying too hard to be smart, but literally for the rest of the film they're not that smart anymore. They're kind of dumb again.
It's dropped. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, why? So there's that, and it could be like it's really the epitome of how dumb they are, but it's really a plot hole too. So, like, all of a sudden they realize that like Koopa probably isn't going to win this thing.
Well,
And so all of a sudden they showed Princess Daisy like what to do in the king's chamber, and state that like we've been a follower of you, king, since the beginning of your reign. Like all of a sudden they were like moles.
like they're supposed to. Yeah.
But then at the end of the film, they're really not moles anymore. They just were failures. Like what the fuck?
But
Like
also
it's a fucking mess.
So as soon as Mario and Luigi arrive in Dino City, the best Super Nintendo game ever made, they have this piece of meteorite. They have the MacGuffin that King Koopa is after. And within 2 minutes of arriving in Dino City, they lose it. They don't have it anymore. And the entire movie, Iggy and Spike are after Mario and Luigi. And even, when Mario and Luigi get caught and King Koopa President Koopa, is like talking to Mario and Luigi as like their lawyer. Larry Lazard, by the way. Kind of fucking gay. Mario and Luigi are like, we don't have it. We don't have whatever you're talking about. Like, we don't have it, and they legitimately don't have it for basically the entire movie. Mm-hmm. So it's like, why would he still continually chase Mario and Luigi if they don't have it? Like,
yeah, that's true. Maybe he just saw them as a threat, even if they didn't have it.
Well, yeah, they're plumbers.
I mean, yeah.
King Koopa learns that Mario and Luigi are plumbers, and immediately, just like, without hesitation, he's like, plumber alert.
And here's what's funny. So you look around the city, right? And you look around at, obviously, like, there's scenes where there's obvious plumbing issues. That city has probably never seen a plumber. Everybody all of a sudden knows what a plumber is.
Right. And they have like, how like the terrorist like threat level like chart or whatever that we have, and then the plumber is like at the top for some reason, because he's just matter of fact just like plumber alert. Like there's like, but also Dennis Hopper just does not give a fuck this entire movie. He's just
Dennis Hopper
just saying his lines. But I do give him, first of all, I give him credit for wearing those stupid fucking cornrows the entire movie, but also because he's supposed to be a descendant of not a descendant, but am I saying that right? He's supposed to be evolved from a T-Rex,
right?
And there are times where he's legitimately just going like this the entire movie.
Yeah.
So I gotta give him credit for that.
So he goes like that the entire movie, like a T-Rex would. But the reason why he's doing it is because he's also a germaphobe.
Also that.
So he doesn't like his hands out.
I was like, what if
it's kind of like
what if Howie Mandel played King Koopa? Because he is like he'll hold the Super Scope and he's got like gloves on, or he's got like paper towels underneath it, or he'll be like talking on the phone and he'll have like a towel like.
And that's what Dennis Hopper's Koopa did in the whole fucking movie. He was also holding stuff with towel. Yeah. So
but back to the pipes. There's a scene where Mario and Luigi like turn on the AC or something. Like they freeze the pipes or whatever. So they I forgot why.
It plays a role later, but it really didn't
amount
make us
to anything.
It was
a means of escape 20 minutes down the road.
Right.
As if they knew that was going to happen. But why would Dino City have any type of air conditioning? Because they're all lizards. Why would that even exist? They're all descendants of lizards. The city should be like flooded in heat lamps.
Maybe they're so good plumbers that they installed an AC unit when they were just simply cranking knobs and shit. I don't know. Always trust your tools. Anyway, so things kind of got shitty. It got to the point where even Dennis Hopper was just like, he was so livid that he shut down production for 3 hours, and for 3 hours he was just bitching. He was just arguing and bitching, and he was like, I'm not going to do this scene. I hate this fucking line. I'm not going to say that.
Well, he was supposed to be there for 6 weeks, and
he was there for like
17.
Yeah, 16 or 17, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And I feel like some of those, like, his scenes where he did have to come back, there's a lot of scenes of Koopa just sitting in a chair looking at a screen. At one point,
Right.
he's just like, I'm going to order a pizza. And I feel like those are
That pizza
he's
part-
probably like, I'm not doing anything but sitting in this fucking chair. Like,
That pizza part though was fucking great. Like they could have put in a scene of him ordering a pizza, which is supposed to be grotesque. Like, I'm gonna order pizza, it's gonna have all these grotesque things on it, right? And it's like, okay, that kind of helps build the fact that he doesn't eat normal food. He
he's
eats
ordering
like
pizza
a
with-
lizard.
He's eating pizza with like other parts of like dinosaurs and lizard parts on it. It's like if we ordered a pizza with like monkey on it.
Whatever. But they could have left it at that, right? But they play into it not only one more time, but 2 more times before the film ends, where when things, when you're reaching that climax, and shit's starting to hit the fan, and he's starting to get, fucking worried and everything, but he's still like stoic and like, I'm President Koopa. All of a sudden, he's talking to his guys, he's like, and where's my goddamn pizza or something like that, And it's like, okay, so they didn't forget about the pizza. I like that.
That's
And
the
then-
one plot thread that they follow
and then
the
like
entire movie.
3 minutes later, when he's knee deep in battle now, all of a sudden he gets called on the radio and goes, by the way, President Koopa, your pizza's here. I don't have time for that right now, or something like that. Like I was like that. I thought that was great. I really liked that. It was a nice little touch. I thought they could have just left the pizza thing alone.
If you need to find something in this movie, take it.
It was how he reacted both times in the follow up, where he's asking where his pizza is, and all of a sudden he ain't got time for no pizza. Like it's just a Dennis Hopper, like how he is, that really made that sold it for me. I guess Dennis Hopper
is fucking phenomenal.
in anything, even this. I think
For what it's worth,
even though
Dennis
Hopper is
not trying.
fantastic.
He's. I feel like he's not even.
He's not even
you can
trying.
tell
It's
he's
good.
Yeah, but it's like great. Yeah.
It got to the point where
And to be fair, Bob Hoskins, for what it's worth, not bad either.
the actors aren't bad actors. It was a case of
I could take her
they
John
only.
Leguizamo, but
Well, I've never really liked him.
I
liked him in Spawn, but
I have not seen that movie since I was a kid. I'm scared.
that's going to be like a whole nother one that's coming down the road, because I haven't seen that in a long time either. So, but I did like him in Spawn as the Violator. So anyway, Dennis Hopper at that point was really kind of just doing it for his son, because his son was a fan. Dennis Hopper, I think, was the type of person, and he had the money, he could have just fucking walked away. If he was so pissed, he could have walked
That's what
away,
I'm saying, yeah.
shut down the whole production, and caused them to have to refilm everything with a brand new actor.
Yeah.
I mean, look how far they got with Back to the Future before they're like, Eric Stoltz, you suck. We're redoing the whole film. They're almost done with that. They had to reshoot the whole fucking... There's 2 versions of Back to the Future that basically exist.
I'm learning something brand new.
Anyway, well, that's a whole nother rabbit hole you can go down.
Larry Lazard.
Larry Lazard. Yeah, so he basically, Dennis Hopper really at that point was just like, well, my son likes the Mario Brothers, that's why I'm doing it, I'm going to keep doing it. Later, it ended up being... there ended up being a conversation between Dennis Hopper. In an interview, he said there was a conversation with him and his son after the movie came out where his son was just like, so why did you, do the movie? Well, because I did it for you. Well, that's great, but like literally, why did you do that movie? Like even like after his son saw it, his son was just like, why?
But Bob Hoskins' son
Bob Hoskins' son loves the movie. Yeah.
It's just fucking crazy.
Yeah. His son is on record saying that he thought everybody was great, the special effects were great, and they did what they could with it, and the end result is a good movie. And that's the thing. That's like, you read stuff like that. You read both sides, and there's a lot more of the negative side. But then you've got like all these people coming out with the cult thing, and then you read what Bob Hoskins' son has said about the film, and how even like Samantha Mathis kind of stands behind it, and the original directors, who basically the original directors were also chosen because of their work with special effects. They created Max Headroom in the 80s.
Okay.
Those two directors
Yeah.
of Super Mario Brothers created Max Headroom. So, they stand behind it, and and then there's some people that don't. John Leguizamo's kind of like on the fence. Like I said, Bob Hoskins never stood behind it. Dennis Hopper never stood behind it. I haven't heard Fisher Stevens say a goddamn word about it, nor Lance Hendrickson. But it's like one of those things where it's
He was there for 3 minutes.
that was probably for a paycheck. He probably got a pretty penny.
Yeah.
For doing that. But given he was probably, as along with a lot of everybody else, they probably expected a sequel, and they were probably on board for a sequel, which is why Lance Henriksen was like, Lance was probably like, yeah, I'm going to play the king in the second one. Yeah, payday, but even a bigger payday. But anyway, the actors did the best they could with the shitty material that they were given. There's a lot more shitty material overall in the film than there is good. It's got some glimpses of a little bit of hope, maybe 2 or 3 times. Definitely the pizza thing is one of them, I think. But you could put that type of thing in any movie, and it would probably be kind of funny, kind of a cute thing, But